Hey everyone, I'm Wojtek, and today I'm going to be talking about prototyping. I work at, so I'm based in Krakow, Poland. I am on the Hex team, and Ecto and Xdoc, and I work at Dashbeat. At Dashbeat, we are basically doing two things. We help grow the Elixir open source ecosystem, and we work with companies, help them adopt and run Elixir in production. We would be answering questions. Okay, sorry about that. I don't know how to turn this off. Sorry. Sorry. We help companies run Elixir in production. We answer questions they may have, review pull requests, and we, prototype solutions. So my thesis is Elixir is pretty good at prototyping, and this is kind of why. So first of all, REPL, or read, eval, print loop. In Elixir, that's IEX. I use IEX all the time. I use it as my calculator, as my clock. It helps that I live close to UTC. And I actually want to take a step back and talk about the second line, the result of date UTC today. This is something that we see every day, but I think it is kind of profound because, okay, so in the previous line we saw, number, primitive value. Here we got a date struct, and in Elixir we can pretty print them. We can customize how they are pretty printed, so we can kind of extend the language to our domains. And in this particular case, the way it is pretty printed is using the date, the D sigil. So there's a mechanism in the language to express or to kind of like build data really easy. I think this is quite a unique mix of, no pun intended, of things. Whenever we have a value in IX, we can use the I or info helper to learn more about it. It's data. So here, data type date, row representation. This is done through a protocol. So whenever we have our own structs, we can kind of implement the protocol to be able to learn more about them this way. We have autocomplete modules and functions. And whenever we find a function, we can learn more about it, use the H helper, and we have docs inline. Again, this is kind of everyday stuff for us, but this is actually unique across programming languages. We can even open functions, so to speak, open the source code, learn what they do. I use it all the time. And so Elixir and Erlang are allegedly good for networking. So here's a simple networking program. We open up a TCP connection to so this is a locally running MySQL server that I have. And when MySQL server gets a connection, it sends back a handshake packet, like a welcome message. So here we can receive it. 0 means give me all of the bytes, and we get all of the bytes. So we got a binary. It may not be so easy to decipher, but what we can do with IEX is it, by default, if it exists, loads a .IEX EXS file. And in that file, we can do pretty much anything. We can define modules and functions, import them, so they are available. And as of a few releases ago, there is even a default inspect function that we can use to override how terms are pretty printed by default. So my custom function defined here works just as usual, except for binaries that are not printable, meaning they don't have UTF-8 bytes. It's gonna do something custom. So again, we connect to the server, read from the socket, and here we have the good old hex dump format. So we have 16 bytes per row. The bytes are base 16 encoded, and at the end, at the right side, we try to print them. So in the first row, you can see 8.3.0. That's the MySQL version that I got. So again, kind of niche. If you happen to be doing network protocols and binary stuff, this is useful. Otherwise, maybe not so much. But the idea was to show you that we have tools to extend the platform to like new domains, and so I think this is yeah, like pretty useful for prototyping. Here I even have the hex sigil. You might see in the presentation that I'm quite fond of sigils and inspect, and yeah, I can kind of like copy paste this code around. It's gonna work. I can take a hex dump from somewhere, use the sigil, and I have right there the binary in my shell in my editor. All right, so next up, dynamic typing. Here is a simple program. We have hello and goodbye functions. They take strings, so we have a main function. And let's make a change to this program. So let's add a user struct with a first name field. And let's change our program. And let's run it. We may or may not have forgotten about something. So we run this program, we got hello Alice, and then we got a crash. And you could say, this is bad. There was obviously a mistake in the program. So like, why would you even run it? There was obviously something wrong. And I would say I partially agree with that. There was a mistake, so it would be very nice if Elixir, if the compiler would have caught it. But I think it is actually very useful that it still run the program. So especially in an existing code base, when I'm doing, maybe like, prototyping, maybe I'm like changing something like in the middle of the application. So I'm like breaking half of the application, but I don't care. I just want to see this one thing. So I think being able to run the program is really important. But ideally, we would have both. OK, so let's fix it up. And now let's make another change. We change the first name to name. We update hello. We update main. And we run the program again. And now, as of Elixir 1.17, we are going to get Elixir warning, compiler warning, unknown key, first name, because user has a name field. So we got a compiler warning, we got hello Alice, and we got an error. And this is what I want. I got a message from the compiler that something is wrong, but I still were able to run my program. And as the type system is going to improve, I think we are going to have more of these things. And the critical part about, so you could say that like compiler errors, compiler warnings, that's like, does that, like it's like a subtle difference, but I think it's actually profound because we are able to run the program, experiment, iterate, and we can always turn these warnings into errors, like in release builds or on CI. So I think this is good. This is a very good approach. All right, next up, Hotcode loading. So Erlang VM is pretty famous for that, and we use Hotcode loading all the time. Whenever we have Phoenix projects, we would have Phoenix live reload by default. Whenever we make a change and see it recompiled, that's thanks to live reload, and through Hotcode loading, our code is just updated. In Mix projects, right there in the shell, we can call the recompile helper. Whenever we make changes, we hit recompile, we have the updated code. We can even kind of copy-paste modules into shells, new modules, we can overwrite modules. I would not recommend doing that in production, but I would be lying if I said that I did it. So we have Hotcode loading and Hotcode upgrades. So in the Mix release documentation, we have this that we don't provide Hotcode upgrades because they are very complicated to perform in practice, as they require careful coding of your processes and applications, as well as testing. So Hotcode upgrades are like database migrations, but for your processes and their states. So yeah, I agree with this, that it is kind of hard to do it in practice, but it is kind of mind-blowing that that's even possible. So I think it's great that this capability even exists. And there are companies that are using it all the time, and it's critical. And that's why they chose Erlang, that this capability exists. So again, we have this pretty fantastic foundation that we can build upon. Next up, metaprogramming. Pretty broad topic, so I will maybe touch on it just a little bit. So this is the simplest gen server I could think of. We just use the gen server and implement the init callback. We get the initial state. So use does some stuff, and it kind of looks like a language feature, right? Like use is this kind of like a kind of magical thing, but it really isn't. So I'm simplifying here a lot, but use is not a language feature. It is something that's written in Elixir in the standard library. It looks kind of like this. It takes a module and it requires the module. We have to require things, so we can require modules. We require modules so we can call macros from those modules. So use requires module and calls using on the module. That's basically it. And we can totally write this code ourselves. And so the way I think about macros is kind of like as if I have written. So use genserver is as if I have written require genserver and call genserver using. And just genserver using is as if I would have written all of these callbacks, the default implementations. We can override them. So again, kind of like you don't have to worry about any of it. But to me, it is great that we have that we can implement use ourselves. It really looks like a language feature, but it's not. So we have powerful tools to build tools and libraries that make it really easy to accomplish a lot of things fast. So far, I've been talking mostly about writing code. Here is maybe feature to kind of find code to write. So Hexocs. Hexocs is where we host the vast majority of Elixir documentation out there. Official docs are in there. It's built using Xdoc, and there is a lot of features. I'm just gonna mention a couple, but whenever we have links, we can hover over them, get a sneak peek of what it is. We can click them, go to another page. We can press / to open up search box. We can start typing, we have suggestions, we can find something, go to that functions page. And here we have some helpful documentation. And to me, most importantly, we have usage examples. And I can't quite explain what it is, but I think it's like a mix of functional programming and kind of data that, and I think definitely culture, that it kind of happens that like pretty much all of these code examples, you can just take them and copy paste them and they just work. There is no like extra setup. You can just take this code and run it. So I think it's really great for prototyping, for trying things out. We can press the G key to go to hex packages. We can start typing and find things. So to be honest, you kind of have to know what you're looking for. That is going to change, perhaps. Stay tuned. Not anytime soon, though, but eventually, yeah. Here, we can find telemetry. It's an Erlang library. It's written in Erlang, but it's also using Xdoc. And so we have the same features. We have the same consistent experience. One of the links here is to Erlang system time function. And again, as of somewhat recently, we can see the sneak peek of what it is. And when you click it, we go to OTP documentation. But it does kind of look kind of familiar, because it's also using Xdoc as of OTP 27. So we have this consistent experience across the ecosystem. We learn, key shortcuts, and we can use them all over the place. So I think, to me, kind of finding stuff is very important for prototyping. So next up, MixInstall. This is, to me, this is one of those features which are, in hindsight, like they should have been there from day one. Pretty obvious. So let's take a look at an example. We open up IEX and we install Rec, which is an HTTP client that I wrote. And thank you. So just make a request. This is a GitHub API to get information about repositories. So we get a response, and Rec, when getting a response, getting content type application JSON, is going to automatically decode. If it gets a redirect, it's going to follow redirect and things like that. So my goal with Rec to be batteries included. It does a a lot of for you, it makes it allows you to kind of not write a lot of code, move fast, experiment, prototype, but at the same time to be useful in production, of course, as well. So yeah, just a quick example of rec. And now let's go to another, let's try something else. Instead of making the call right away, we can build up request struct. So here we make a request to elixirlang.org, and the body is HTML. And now what we can do is install another dependency. So here it's rec easyhtml. We attach it to our request. So that's a rec plugin. We attach it. And now whenever rec gets content type HTML, it is going to decode it into something. So here it is decoding into a struct. Again, I did mention sigils and custom printing. It decodes it into a struct that implements the inspect protocol, pre-prints the HTML in a way that we kind of are familiar with. We can even use colors and stuff. So it's like really easy to find data that way. It also, the inspect representation uses the sigil, and we can totally copy-paste this code around. So again, we have these tools that allow us to customize, extend the language, the platform for new domains. Oh, so we also implement the access behavior, so the square bracket syntax. Here we can use the CSS selector syntax to easily find stuff. So next up, another example. So we install EctoSQL and Postgres. So this is, by the way, a script that I think I use like on a daily basis. Like whenever there is a question about Ecto, or I don't remember how something would work, I would jump into the script. So this is going to be a bunch of slides, but it's just one script. In a single file, so we mix.install Ecto, we can just add some basic configuration, set the database, define repo, define migrations. I usually have just one with a bunch of things. Define Ecto schemas. Just a little bit of boilerplate. So storage down removes the database, storage up creates the database, just to make sure there is no like transient state. Always start from scratch. Start repository, run the migrations. And so this right now is like a reproducible environment. I have my Ecto, the repository, I have my migrations running, and now I can test anything. And this is really great to like reproduce bugs and things like that. Next up, Ziegler. So there is a very interesting systems programming language called Zig, and Ziegler makes it really easy to use Zig from Elixir. So mix.install Ziegler, define a module, use, not a language feature, just a macro. We use Zig. It uses a Z sigil. I like that a lot. I like my sigils. And here we can just write Zig code. So here is a simple function that adds to float numbers. And this is it. This function is now exposed to Elixir. We can just call it. And behind the scenes, it's actually pretty mind-blowing. Like Ziegler kind of like parses the Zig code, figures out like what's the name, what's the arity, what are the arguments. It boxes and unboxes them. It's very cool. And importantly, with Zig, so Zig has a fantastic integration with C, and so because Ziegler is very easy to use from Elixir, so Ziegler makes it very easy to use Zig from Elixir. We can very easily integrate with libraries written in C. Yeah, we run this and we get the result. Finally, just one example, that minimal gen server. I just found it like a couple of days ago, actually. There's a library called beam file, and what you can do is give it beam files, file names, or even modules here, and you can print Elixir code, like the actual expanded Elixir code that ends up in the beam file, and we see our gen server. So very cool for debugging. You can print Erlang code using this library as well. I maintain a MixInstall examples repository. As of today, there is at least 60 of them. And yeah, if there's a library that you like, feel free to submit APR. All right. This talk would not be complete without mentioning Livebook. We had a bunch of talks. I'm not going to talk a lot about Livebook, just show you one feature, one new feature. So in Livebook, we have runtimes. By default, we click configure, we can choose the runtime. By default, we use standalone, so it's just another Erlang VM on our local system. But as of the latest release, we can also use Fly machine. So I already have some configuration here. Just choosing the Livebook Docker image, and behind the scenes, using the Fly API, Livebook is starting a Fly machine, which is basically a Docker container. And now we can run code in my own browser that's running in the cloud, in the Fly infrastructure. So here I'm gonna again install rec and the S3 plugin. Again, rec.new, and we attach S3. And now what we can do is use a kind of custom, but pretty standard S3 URL scheme. So if we hit this endpoint, it is the common meaning of that across ecosystems is give me the list of buckets. So when we get a response from this endpoint, so S3 API is basically standard for object storage, and it returns XML. For this request, the XML is going to be decoded, so we have a list of buckets. So I can take the name of the bucket and make another request. So this time it's going to mean give me a list of objects in this bucket. So I have a bunch of objects. I can take the key, and now I'm going to get content. So the idea behind the rec S3 was, again, S3 is so ubiquitous that to make it really easy to use S3 using this S3 URL scheme that we've seen all over this conference, by the way. Turns out it's pretty useful. Yeah. So you might be wondering, so this bucket is private. So how can I access it like that? Isn't there any authentication? So when we use Fly and we use Tigris, which is a S3 compatible storage that we can very easily attach to our Fly applications, what it does under the hood is it will automatically define. So Fly is going to define some environment variables, starting with AWS prefix. So we have the access key ID and secret access key and all, and the rec S3 will automatically read them and use them to authenticate our requests. So again, you don't have to worry about it. It's done for you. Yeah, there is a bunch of other fantastic features. Check out livebook.dev. All right, so Livebook is great. To me, the Fly runtime is a game changer. There are also smart cells. You can find already existing components and even see how they work. But to be completely honest, sometimes it's really cool to use my own editor. I already have my tools, or maybe you want to use AI or things like that. And so this is a very new project. It has been, I think it's out for like a month or two. And I love the tagline, which is, Livescript. Love Livebook, but want to write EXS files. Livescript runs your files in an IEX shell and reruns them on changes. The key is that it doesn't rerun the whole file, only the parts that changed. So let's check it out. On the right side, I'm going to MixInstall Livescript. On the left side, I'm going to have a script. So this is cool, by the way, that we can just MixInstall archives or eScripts. Very easy to use. So yeah, let's run Livescript for the demo EXS file. Right now it's empty. And now let's install rec, make some requests, and immediately, so when saving the file, immediately I see output in the IEX shell. And importantly, I have access to the bindings that I set in my script. And whenever I make a change to the script, the last expression is, so the script is intelligently recompiled, and the last expression is back in my shell. It's very nice for prototyping. Yeah. In a similar vein, again, it's nice to use your editor. And by the way, again, Phoenix, game changer for web development. We can just mix PHX new and have a whole new project. But to be completely honest with you, the project can be a little bit overwhelming. There's a lot of files for very good reasons, but there's a lot of files. We can't maybe so easily share what we did. So Fenix Playground makes it easy to write single file Phoenix applications. And as many or most of my great ideas, it started with something from Gary from the Phoenix team. So MixInstall, Fenix Playground, and we can just define live view modules. So use Phoenix Live View, define mount. Here we are going to have an assign count, start with 0, define render, display the count, display buttons, and then have handle events for them, increase the counter, decrease the counter. And now, just one line, Phoenix Playground start, and that's it. This is the whole script. So again, the whole script. The only change in this file is that there is a Phoenix Live View 1.0 RC. When Phoenix Live View 1.0 final will be out, this line is no longer going to be necessary. So let's run it. So just Elixir, this file, and it opens up browser window. We can use the counter. We can open up the inspector. We see browser, the server logs right there in the browser. Very easy. We don't lose focus, and we can reload. So we can write, update our script, save, and the page is automatically reloaded. And importantly, and this is why we need 1.0, we updated the page without losing state. See, we still have the number at 2, so it's very easy to move forward without kind of like losing progress and your experiments. Another example. So here in the second cell, the config cell, I'm reading out some environment variables. Here they start with the LB or Livebook prefix. It's the whole file is about maybe 50 lines or so. It is adopted from the direct to S3 guide from Phoenix. So here, because of the LB prefix, I got an error, and Livebook had affordances for it, so I could use the secrets feature to load them up, and I can upload the file straight to S3 in less than 50 lines of code in a single file. This is using rec S3. So previously I showed you the S3 protocol handling. Rec S3 also has 2 functions, one to create pre-signed form, and the other one to create pre-signed URL. And the idea is that we use credentials to create a digitally signed form or URL that we can kind of give to users. They are only valid for, let's say, 1 hour. So yeah, again, pretty easy, less than 50 lines of code. Livebook though, is a single file. We can share it with people, collaborate. This Livebook is in the rec S3 documentation on Hex, so you can check it out there. All right, so we have a bunch of features, and I always want to, but there is one more thing. Yeah, like, what do you need before you can prototype in Elixir? You need an Elixir. So here's a prototype of another way to installing Elixir. We download a single file, a single script from ElixirInstall.org. We run it, and it downloads OTP for your system, and it downloads Elixir for your system. We get some instructions to add it to your path, and now we are ready to go. We have Elixir now. On this machine, I already have a demo script that we've seen before, so we can just run it. It just works. So Elixir install, it works on macOS. It works on Ubuntu. as well. It's the same URL. We just download the file. We're going to get OTP for that system. Everything is statically linked, so we don't have any, or as least as possible, runtime dependencies on the system. It should work on a brand new operating system. Again, we just run it. We have the same counter. It works on Windows as well. Here we download the batch script, run it, downloads OTP for Windows, downloads Elixir. Elixir is cross-platform, so it's always the same file. We have some instructions, so we add it to the path, and we are ready to go. Again, just run the single file Phoenix app. All right, so I mentioned this is supposed to work on brand new operating systems, so I really meant that. They were all running in VMs on my machine, all three of them. Behind the scenes, I made sure they can talk to each other on the network level, and I just set the shared cookie so they can talk to each other on the Erlang VM. So I just connect to them from one machine. I made very small changes to the script, but now, whenever I update the counter, it's updated everywhere. So if we open up new browser windows, it's gonna be there as well on other nodes, on other machines. It's synced as well. These are the changes, pretty simple. In mount, we subscribed to pub/sub topic. In handle event, we broadcast to the cluster the event, and then in handle info, we update the counter, and then live view will figure out what needs to change and send the minimal diff to update the DOM. Here's the website. It's work in progress, to say the least. Quite usable already. So there's, by the way, another similar project called Beam App from Tristan, from the Rebart team. It's a much bigger, it's a bigger scope, cooler looking logo. So I'm looking forward to that. But I think the trickiest bit in the space is to having these OTP images to download from somewhere. So we are collaborating on getting that happen. I have a proposal to the EEF to have community-maintained OTP builds for Mach OS and then potentially for other operating systems down the road. But yeah, so this is pretty much it. We have the Erlang VM, we have Elixir, we have the broader ecosystem. And so, by the way, so about Fenix Playground, I've been talking to the Fenix team. There is some appetite to make it easier to use, to have single file Fenix apps with just Fenix. And because Livescript solves the live reloading problem, maybe there is no need for Fenix Playground in the long term. And you know what? That's OK. And with ElixirInstall, Beam Up, I don't think it's a matter of if or when, just a matter of time. I think it will have the features that I kind of need for my stuff. So maybe ElixirInstall is not going to be needed there in the long term, and that's OK too. I built these, I learned from it. Very useful to me. In the meantime, maybe going to be useful to you as well. If it's going to be surpassed by other tools, that's cool. What else can you expect from a prototype? Yeah. Thanks to Dashbeat and our clients, none of this would be possible otherwise. And thanks to you, happy prototyping.